Hey, just doing a quick walk around video today. Gonna get into why, even though I love darts, and get into some of the reasons why some people don't restore them. And going around the car, there are a lot of factory defects not a lot of people know about, unless of course they're A-body fans. In particular, roof seam. Anytime there was a situation with one of these, they didn't come out perfect. There'd be imperfections like this. You can see here. This in particular, where just the whole seam is just kind of jacked up. Not sure if that's a factory defect, but I've seen it on plenty of other cars too, where it just isn't right. It doesn't seat right. There's a big gap in between the seam of the roof and the body of the car. And one of the main reasons why I hate vinyl top cars, especially darts, is this shit here. You get all this chrome. Chrome looks nice when you get it from the factory, but give it a few years, this stuff pops up. They all have these gasket locking seals. They're a pain in the ass to install. They're a pain in the ass to get out to. You can't really reuse them. Once they're out, they're fucking garbage. Now the chrome all looks nice, you know. When it's all done and everything's polished up, it looks great. Problem is, getting it to that point takes for fucking ever. But when you see the difference between the other roof seam and this one's still got a huge amount of overlap. And there's gonna be a ton of filler just to make that look smooth. And they almost never look right. You can always tell when somebody's redone a car and they've done a painted roof, or they've just gotten rid of the vinyl top altogether and paint the car all one color. You can usually tell that it was a vinyl top car just by the way this looks when it's done. It costs thousands of dollars to get this to look right. And there's a reason why darts in particular get kind of a bad rap, because the fit and finish on them, they weren't really ever intended to be classics. They were intended to be just everyday beaters. You know, something grandma drives or some kid gets as a first car. You know, some of them were high performance cars, and of course, it just seems like you get a high performance one and you don't see shit like this. They seem to have a better fit and finish on the cars that cost more, as opposed to your everyday slant 6 automatic or 3-speed car like this one was. This car was originally a slant 6 3-speed automatic, no power steering, no power brakes, nothing special. But somebody put some time into, the previous owner put some time into this car. They really liked this car. But sooner or later they realized, this car's kind of a pain in the ass. They added these scoops. You know, you find all kinds of little imperfections and stuff. But the main problem with these cars, especially the 70 to 72s, seem to get this kind of rot right around the wheel arch area. And it really seems to be on this one side. The other side doesn't look as bad. All of them from, I think, 67 to 76 all have this pinhole rust that starts here. And you either have to cut little sections out and weld it in, which takes a long time, or you end up replacing this whole rocker. And that's, not as big of a pain in the ass, but it's still a pain in the ass. To me, the car is a nice, daily driver. It ain't bad. But one thing that I can stress that I hate about darts as opposed to their duster counterpart, is the wheel opening. This whole wheel arch just don't look right. You know, it just, some people love the low slung look about it. I don't. It's very unforgiving when it comes to putting a larger tire on, or in some cases, if you can fit a larger tire on, you got to jack the thing up, and kind of like 55 to 57 Chevys, ain't a lot of room to get the wheel on and off. And it's just, you know, they don't look right with little weak 14-inch wheels and these little, you know, you can't even get a tire with a decent sidewall without paying a lot of money. They look better with the bigger polyglass tires. These cheapo 215 R70s, they're okay, I guess, but it just gives the car kind of a frumpy look. You know, it doesn't really fill up the wheel well at all. It just looks like crap. The rally wheels, you know, they're a nice touch, but to be honest, you know, I prefer a 15-inch wheel. I just prefer stuff to fill up a little more. It just kind of looks, it kind of looks weak. The other thing about these cars is after about 7 to 10 years, it doesn't matter what kind of springs you get. After about 7 to 10 years, they just sag. They start looking like a lowrider. And to me, it's just, they're not that great a spring. These cars would definitely have done better if they'd had a different kind of suspension. That's just my opinion. Leaf springs are okay for trucks. For cars, you know, a nice 3-link or 4-link would probably be the better way to go. Something adjustable. Leaf springs just don't do it for me. You know, after researching which cars hold their value, darts really don't. You see some of them going for 15, 20 grand, but they come with a high performance engine like a 340, or some put a 360 in them, but you got to put tons of money into them. So honestly, I don't know how many of these people even break even with a car like this. These cars are for fun. You know, these are cars that nobody gives a shit really if you modify them. And I can understand why people are throwing LS motors in them, because it's cheap. It's a cheap, strong car. One cool thing about A-bodies is that they're awfully resilient. They're good vehicles. They've got their quirks. There's some things about them that people like me just can't help but point out, that they just, the lines don't really match up on some of Dodge's vehicles. Especially if you buy a Demon or a Scamp. They'll have, you know, in the case of the Scamp, it'll have a duster front end that has a smoothed out lip here instead of an indentation like the Dart has. But it won't match the ass end wheel arch, where all the Darts and Scamps have this recessed bevel, but the front, in the case of a Scamp, will have the have more of a flare instead of a recess. And then it's just the opposite on a Demon. You'll have this fender with the recess, but you'll have the nice duster rear wheel arch that sets up a lot higher and is far more forgiving to put a larger tire on, as well as has that good looking flare, but the front doesn't match the back. And I'll even go so far as to say that the wheel arches on the Dart in general just don't match, because this is so low slung. Yeah, you can get a small tire and a small wheel combination on these easy. If you want to sacrifice looks, yeah, this is the way to go. But to be real, this wheel arch duplicated onto the back would give the car a lot more symmetry. And I think that's a lot of the reason why say the 66 and 67 Nova isn't as popular as the 68 to 74. At least the 68 to 74, there's more style and more symmetry going from the front and the back. Everything seems to line up. And not to say I'm a Chevy fan or anything, but I see why Novas are more popular than Darts. They're cheap to get shit for, and everything seems to line up. You know, Chevys have a much bigger parts base, but the one thing about the Dodges is that they're built a hell of a lot stronger. So you're basically giving up looks for function. You know, will this car survive a crash better than a Nova? Most likely. You know, the LS guys seem to love putting LS motors in Darts and Dusters because they know that they're strong. You know, they're lighter. They're versatile machines. Do I like LS motors? Not at all. I think they suck. But people are getting power out of them. I don't know how long they're getting power out of them, but there's some people that say they can get a 4.8 and turbo it and, you know, do 10 seconds all day long in the quarter. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I've yet to see a 4.8 go more than 100 miles per hour in anything, and usually they're strapped to 6,000 pound trucks. So, and as far as fit and finish is concerned, Dodges might be strong, but they are seriously lacking in some design aspects and fit and finish. This shit in particular is what makes me shy away from Darts a lot of the time that have vinyl tops, because any imperfection that they found on the line, they just said throw a vinyl top on it and some trim, and that'd be it. They wouldn't bother trying to fix an imperfection like this shit, or this shit, or this shit. Nope, they just slap a vinyl top on it and some Bondo and call it a day. And that shit was common in the 70s, and it seems like especially with Ford and Chrysler. They had a lot of vinyl top cars back in the day because it was a matter of get them out the door and get as much as you can for them. And this car was probably about $2,500 new, probably. Maybe not even that much. This car is probably one of those white hat special cars that people talk about. Get the most basic 2 1/4 slant 6, a 904 3-speed, and practically no amenities. And people ate them up. You know, they're good looking cars. They really do look good, except for that. But the lines on these cars look great. It's just a matter of what they get attached to. You know, probably back in the 60s, this was probably a neat looking design, but you look at the tires of today and the wheels of today, not a lot of people like this setup because they can't put 20s on. Now me, I don't like 20s, but I do like a much bigger tire. That's just my taste. So in the future, you're going to be seeing these wheel arches match my 73's wheel arches, very much like Dick Landy's car, where they basically copied the front design and made the whole thing bigger, and it makes the whole car look more appealing. There's more symmetry between the front and the back, so it looks like there's more space to fill. And getting a nice set of 15 by 10s in the back won't be a problem, and it'll make it look better, and it won't stick out either. You know, when you've got a nice wheel arch that matches the front, it just makes the whole package look better. But this is just an opinion piece. You know, facts are facts. They didn't do a very good job with the vinyl tops back in the day, and a lot of these cars ended up in the junkyard with roof rot. Not a lot, you know, back in the day there weren't as many people making parts for these. But to be real, you can still get these cars cheap. You can still do a lot with them. And these cars just beg to be modified. And the first thing that a guy like me goes, yeah, this car, really the only things that make this car kind of unpleasant is this rear wheel arch and the shoddy fit and finish from that time period. So yeah, it's going to take a lot more time to make this look good. Definitely going to take some metal work in this area here, especially to make everything line up. But I think in the long run, it'll be a good looking car when I'm done. I've been doing a lot of work to the roof lately to get everything squared away with it before doing this particular part here on each side. Once this is done, it'll look good. And I'll have a video later on as to how to get a vinyl top look without using vinyl and making your rust issues even worse. So stay tuned for that. Maybe the next month or so I should have this done, and I'll do a couple of small videos as I go through what I have planned to do to this. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun.